what should I call it? So new project, it's gonna be a dynamic web project. We'll call it, this is chapter 38, JavaBeans. Okay, that's the project name. And I hope you should have this fixed by now. Sabrina, is yours working? Okay. Okay.
I was waiting for it to load.
Okay. Yeah, I know last week you had some issues, but I think you resolved it, right?
Yeah.
You said we installed it, was it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working.
Yeah, I think last time I think John was some issue too. I'm not sure. It is.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So you can go next, and you can go finish or you can go next. It's fine, but you can also generate this web XML, which we don't use a lot. This is you can have it there just okay, but you don't really need it for our examples. So I have my 38 JavaBeans here, and the web content is where I have the web INF and the meta INF. I need to import the servlet API, right? So go here, right click, properties down here, or project and properties, either way. And make sure you go and click on the Java build path. Click on the libraries tab, and we need to add the external jars, Java archive. And that should be coming from your Tomcat folder, under the library folder inside Tomcat. So if you have XAMPP, that will be in there. So XAMPP Tomcat in the lib folder, and there's a servlet API. So select that, open to install it, and either apply or click OK, either way. And now we have the servlet API ready to go.
I did not follow that. I'm at the Java build path.
Okay, so Java build path is good. So click on the libraries tab. Okay, and then click on the add external jars here. And then just go find that servlet API jar, which should be inside the lib folder inside your Tomcat folder, inside the XAMPP folder. So we have C drive.
You know when you get XAMPP running?
No, it doesn't have to run.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to run. Okay, so you find that, just click open, and then apply and OK, and you're good to go. And if you were to use database, just make sure you also import that MySQL connector as well, right? LIB, the library. There should be a server servlet-api.jar. Yeah, and the Tomcat. Did you find it? Yeah. Okay. So next, we need to create our JSP file. Yeah, let's create our JSP file. So right-click on your web content folder. Again, the web content is the home directory. Okay, the chapter here is just the folder, the project name. It will also be visible on the browser, I'm pretty sure, I think. But web content is where we're going to put our JSP file, your HTML file, and so on. So right-click on that and create new JSP file. If you don't see here, you could just go to File, or you can go to Other and look for, under the web folder, there should be a JSP file option, and then click Next, and then it should be selected in the web content, and then just give it a name. Okay. So what should we call this? I'll just call it the index page. Okay, index.jsp. This should be our home page. And just click Finish. So you should be presented with this HTML already pre-built in there for you. All this stuff here, you can leave it as is, you can remove these. I mean, I usually don't use these, but I'm going to use with the HTML5, so you can take that out. This is also optional, this line here, the meta tag. You can take that out, just a lot of code here. We'll change the title to maybe like JSP JavaBeans. Something like that. Okay, so I'm going to add another file, and we'll call it maybe page 2. Okay, so another JSP file, new JSP file, and I'll call this page 2. I don't know why page 2, but I'll call it page 2. Just click Finish, and it should look kind of similar. Again, you can clean this up. And we'll call this page 2, so we know that it's in page 2. It's like JavaBeans page 2 or something. And also on the body, we'll put an h1 tag. We just put the same thing, right? JavaBeans, or we just put like page 2 is fine. So I know that I'm in page 2. Probably should do the same with the index, right? We just put home page here. H1 home page. I want to show you the different scopes of the bean. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so I'll show that when you move from page 1 index to the page 2, the data will get lost if you set it to a page scope, if you set to application scope or the session scope, and so on. Okay. So this home page. Right below that, let's create a link to that new page. Just href is equal to page 2.jsp, right? I hope you don't forget your HTML. So here it says go to page 2, right? Just a link to go there. We'll put a break there. Maybe a few breaks so we have more room. Okay, and we should do the same. So you can copy this to the other page and the page 2, and just put, you know, home page, right? Index. So to go back to home page, go to index page. Okay, so we have the links going back and forth. That's all it is. That's all we're doing. And because they're both JSP page, you can actually start any page, is fine. But we'll start from the index page here, for example. And just to make sure that it works, you can go ahead and run this. Click the run or run the browser. Start Tomcat if it asks you to. Just click Finish. And if it doesn't work, then we need to keep trying. Because sometimes it doesn't work until a couple tries, and we'll try again. Hopefully it works. Something is.
I want my code to finish. Run Tomcat 7, but it doesn't give me everything blanked out. Back, next, finish.
You mean on your server?
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you are you seeing what I see up there, or is it different?
Mine's working.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, you might have the same problem last time. Wait a minute. Did you have this problem last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine takes forever too.
Yeah, I noticed that, like, loading it, it's like, oh my gosh, how much longer are you gonna take?
Yeah, it's not like a normal like server that you run it on if you're good. Like you run it through
Okay.
Notepad++.
No, it'll tell me.
But faster.
Okay, yeah, we'll go browse and find that Tomcat directory. Yeah, just click OK.
Working.
Okay, and then just,
Yeah.
Yeah, the effective Tomcat.
Oh yeah, where's
It's
the
always the
six?
best
Okay,
feeling
so
in the
you go
world
back
when
and
it
select
works.
where's the six.
That's all you want.
So push the back button in the bottom.
No.
Yeah, click six.
It doesn't let me go forward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What if you choose an existing? Does it give you the option? No. Pause this for a second. So, okay, so let's continue on with this example. I also want to add another class. So we're going to create a bean class, right? The bean class, if you remember in the requirements, it's not showing up there. Okay, let's see. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, there it is. Okay, so in the beans class, when you create a bean, it needs to be conformed to those rules. Okay, so it has to be public. It must have a constructor, public constructor with no argument, and the serializable interface. Okay, and we create some fields in there as well. Okay, so let's create a class, and the class will be inside the Java resources, the src folder. And so why don't we also create a package? Okay, so right click and then new package, and we'll just gonna call this like com.gtc. Maybe Java 2. Okay, that's the package name. Yeah, I don't need the info. So there's a package here, and go ahead and create a class. So right click, new class. This will be your regular class, just normal class. So we'll just create a student class. Okay, in public, and then just click finish. So here's our class. So we need to supply the public constructor empty. So that's one requirement. Another is we should implement the serializable interface. Serializable, and then we need to import this class. So import it serializable.java.io, and there's our bean, the Java bean. And if you want to create instance or properties, we can also do that. Let's create a private string for just the name, and then we have a private just int we grade. And then we can also create the setters and getters for those as well. So right click, source, setters and getters, check them both, public, and finish. So there's our bean. Okay. Let me turn this off down here. Okay, so back to the index file. I'm going to create a bean. and usually you can do it anywhere, but usually you put on the top of the page up here. Okay. So normally when you want to use that class and the usual way, you would import it, right? Import that file, and then you would you can use it. So for example, you would do like the import, right? Add and then import, and the file is going to be the com.gtc.java2.student. So as you can see, it's kind of long, but that is the whole the complete qualifier to that student class. So this is how you import a class. Once you import that, I'm just showing you the usual way first before you do the bean. And then you can now you know, instantiate an object, right? So you can do like, and using a scriptlet in here. Remember, scriptlets are local variables inside the get or the do put method. And you would do like student s1 new student, right? Why is it not working? Did I do something wrong here? com.gtc java2 student. Let's see why it's not doing that. I'm going to direct it. Did I have it incorrectly indirect? I have it wrong here. Import. Is it page import? Page import, maybe? Yeah, page import. I had it wrong. I was thinking about the include in the file. It's the page import. So the page import, and then we have s1, and then usually now you can say s1 dot set, you know, name, right? Like John's, you put John here. John's cool. s1 dot set, you know, grade. So we'll say he's grade 18, for example. So that's how you do it, right? And then finally down here, you can output this information down here on the page on the bottom here. So you could say like student name, and you can use the. Let me just do some this. Let me do one more thing. Let's see if we can change the font size and make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, a little bit better. So I can now put s1.getName. Okay, put a BR and then grade. Again, same thing. s1.getGrade. And this is how you usually do it. And have an error here, and then what's the error here? So many errors on what's going on here. Get grade, set grade. That looks fine on me. Why is it an error? Let me just compile these weapons. Okay, for some reason it sheds its error, but it's not. So when you run it, you'll see that it gets, you know, prints John and then prints his grade 18. Okay, if you do the source code view, you will see just the HTML tags we created, and all the Java codes are not there, which is what we wanted. If you go to page 2, there's nothing there. Okay, and then back to page 1. Right? So if you want to show the same data on page 2, you have to pass those information over to page 2, either through a form or through the query string and the URL up here, or through a session variable, or the cookie, and so forth, right? So this is how you do it this way. I want to show you if you use the bean method. So to do this, you need to import the file. If you don't have the import file here, it's not gonna work because it doesn't know what a student is, right? So we need that. Now to do the bean method, so right here I would do the JSP tag. Okay, as notice, there's no percent in front. Okay, and it's use bean. You just have to memorize the element, just like HTML tag. You need to give it an ID. You cannot duplicate that. I already have S1, so I can't use S1 again. If I do that, it's gonna have a problem. So I'm just gonna call it student. Yeah, just student for now, in lowercase. And then the class, I have to specify the class. So same thing. I just copy this and put it here. You have to give the complete qualifier to that class. If it's inside a package, you also need to put a package and then the class. And then you also need to supply the scope. So the scope, if I were to put, for example, application, this is what should be available everywhere else. Okay, remember that in JSP, you have to, why is this an error here? What's going on? Let me reopen this file. I have so many errors here. It's not an error, but it's just keeping throwing those at me. There. So these are XML syntax. That means you have to close it with the slash. Okay, if you don't close it, it's gonna have this red line saying there's an error. So every tag you have to close it, except follows the XML rule. You can do that here, or you could do like have an opening part and then you can close it with the closing tag like this. It's fine too. Either way. This is only used if you want to put some information inside here, like again, fallback content, right? So if you don't use it, then really you just close it with a single line, and you don't need that end tag here. So I just created a new bean or an object called student. This is the same as saying student. Student is equal to new student. Same idea. So once that's been created, I can then set its value. I can use the same method to set its value. I could do, like, for example, in the code here, I would say student dot set name. It's just going to be Sabrina. Like Sabrina too, right? And then student dot set grade, and we'll put 19 here. So it works just like you would do with your usual object instantiation. So this line 6, it actually instantiates an object called student. Okay. Again, it just makes it a little bit more portable to other pages. So I have it here, and down the bottom, I can now do the same thing here. I'll put a H bar here to separate the two. And I'm just going to copy this 2 here and then put it down here. And this will be student instead of S1. Okay. Oh, let me change this. So I mentioned that you could use this, or you could use the expression language. So you could do this, the $ in the curly braces. Okay. Replace that with the pound, with the percent and the bracket. So either way will work. I'm just showing you they can do that as well. Now that we know. Okay. And you can save this. You don't have to recompile it because we did not change the student file, right? You just change the JSP file only, so you can go back to the index page if it's still there. I mean, like the page here, and it should show the new content if you refresh it. Okay. So here we have John and Sabrina, their information here. So next thing is we're gonna go to the page 2, okay, and add. So we're gonna pass the bean over to that page. So if you go back to the index page, I'm just gonna copy this line 6 again. So I'm passing the bean over to the page 2. So again, the top here. Okay, it's exactly the same. So it looks at this, and say, oh, it's a student already exists using the application scope, so therefore it does not need to reinstantiate this again. So it's going to use the existing student, and therefore the data will be coming directly from the index page, which I don't have anymore. I closed it. It was over here. And so down here, I'm going to copy Sabrina's information. No, I mean down here in the output. Copy that and put into the page 2. So right below that, here we'll put right in the body. Now let me just again put some spaces here. So you can see that it uses the same bean. If you use a different bean, of course, a different object, therefore it doesn't work. So you have to have this bean passed to it. So if I rename this to student X, then now student doesn't exist, right? It doesn't know. So just make sure it's the same object. And save that file. If you go back to the browser and then refresh, if you go to page 2, you see that her information is passed along to that second page. You'll complete a separate page because the scope is application. What that means is that if I copy this page to a different browser, for example, if I have a different browser here, not from the Eclipse browser, if I put it here, I will still see her information here. Okay, a completely different browser. And let me do this. So let's say that I'm inside the page 2. Once I go into the page 2, in here, I'm going to display her information. After that, I'm going to change her information to something else, right? So I'm going to change it to, I could do like this. You can do this way, like student, now set name, or just set grade, for example, to 20. I changed the grade to 20. So when I go back to the home page, yeah, well, there's going to be an error, but I'm going to show you. Well, let's see. Let's go to page 2. And I'm going to do it again, show this line down here below that, just to show that we did change the grade to 20 from whatever it was, right? Okay, so we start from the index. I set the numbers to 19, and then I go to page 2. I displayed grade 19 her name. I change it to 20. We display that again. Now it should say 20. I change it already, and then if I go back to the index page, I want this to also say 20 instead of 19. Okay. So let's just run this file. Let me go back to the index page. Refresh. If I go to page 2, we see that it's changed 19 to 20. Okay. If I go back to page 1, it still says 19. It should say 20. I wonder why. This is because in the index page, when I run this page, I'm resetting her grade back to 19, right? So usually before you do that, you want to say if, right, if student dot get grade is null, right, or is not null, you can say that. If it's not null, then only then should you set it, right? Grade, well, should be non-zero, should be 0. Is it null or 0? Yeah, it's not 0. We'll assume that it's not 0. Then go ahead and set, no, if it's 0. If it's 0. Right, initially it's going to be 0. Okay, if it's 0, that means it's not set. So therefore, we should set to 19. Otherwise, if it's already been set, don't set it again, right? So we initially it's going to set to 19. We go to page 2, and then down here display 19. We change it to 20 now, and then we show the 20. We go back to page 1, and then it's set. It's already set, so therefore it should not change this to 19. It should still be 20, and when we display the information here, it should say 20. Okay, so let's go back and reset. We run this file. 19. Page 2 is 20. And go to page 1 again, home page, you see that it's been changed to 20. Okay? So you can move the data around if you have the scope set to application. So that means that if I were to have a different browser, which I don't have time to do that, but if I have a different browser, if I check it so that I'm using a different browser, let's say if the browser is Chrome, then change the date to change the number to something else. Okay, if I do that on the Chrome browser, and so this would be like, you know, changed by somebody else, and then if I go back to the other browser here, if I refresh, you'll see that the actual data actually changed also. Okay, on the application level. This one, because it's like static data. So that's been passed around. So now if you go back to index, and let's just say we change this to the page scope. Okay, we change this page scope. Go back here to the page 2 and also change this to page scope. And then save that, and then go back and then refresh. Let's run this again. Just run completely from scratch again. So run. I'm in page 2. Let's try again. Should be in page 1. So run page 1. Okay, works as usual. 18, 19, and 20. We go to page 2. You see that her grade and her name does not propagate through. Okay, because it only exists within the page 1 index. And here I change to 20, right? So if we go back to index, you see that it's still set to 19. Okay, so you have that different scope there. So that's the difference between the application and the page. And the session will be kind of the same, right? If you change the session, you save that, and then here you change it to the session. What that means is that if you move to a different page, it should still work. And if you close the browser or close the tab, it should still continue to work, right? So let me just start over again. Run the index file. Okay, 18, 19. It works just like the other one. Okay. So if I go back to this browser here, I'll refresh. Page 1. Go to page 2. Okay. I did something wrong here. Oh yeah, I changed the grade. That's why it's 20 now. Okay. So you can see that if I copy this and add a new tab, right? Because I'm the same session, the data is still retained. Okay. Usually, if it's not a session, then you reload a new page, and then the session doesn't exist, right? It will reset to 18 and 19 and so on. But because in the same session that you can close this one here, then the data will still be retained until you close the browser completely. Then it would stop. All right, so that's enough for that one. So the next thing I want to show you is back here again on the index page. So we set the data using this way. I did it this way because this is something more familiar with the usual Java code. Okay, so instead of doing this, we could set the data using the JSP setProperty.
Is there a way to comment in JSP?
Yes, yes. You can comment if you're using the syntax here. You can comment using the I think the dash, like that, the double dash, and maybe you end up with that one. Okay, so you can see I turn the whole thing into a comment. Or inside here, if you're using this scriptlet, you could use the usual Java comment, you know, like that. Same thing. Okay. Okay, so you can use that inside the scriptlet. Okay. All right. So here I want to set the property of the name here. The name here implies that this is the name of the bean name, not the name of the property. Okay, the name of the bean, which is student in this case. So student is kind of backward when I did the double on the auto insert here. It should be like name and then property here. Yeah, I want to change the name, which is the student name, right? Because we say we have a name and then a grade property. So the name here, I'm going to change the value to bless you. So let me comment this out so it doesn't duplicate this information. Well, we'll keep that. We'll just a name. Okay, so Jason is up. So it's Jason now. Okay, and I'll leave the grade as is. And so we just basically replace this with the property here. And then if you run this or refresh, with an error. Let's see. That's right.
Still have to have your comment on line 12.
Oh, that's right. I have something going on here. That's what it was. Thank you. Okay, so right, so Jason's here. Page 2 is Jason, and then age 20, grade 20 should be back to 2020 as before. And I think I commented out, it doesn't show the name here. Right. All right, so you can see I can set either, using either method here, using the set property or by using the usual Java code. Okay, again, whichever is easier for you, that's completely fine. But if they ask you in the exam, you know, set the property of this bean, set its property name to something using the JSP set property, just make sure you know how to use that instead of the Java code. Okay. So this is just one bean. You can duplicate this. If you want to create a second student, then of course you can put like student 2 here, right? And from the same class, and then you could now also set its name. So student 2, the name to Aaron, and then the grade to 21. Okay, so we got this second student, and so the same thing, I could just add it down here. This would be student 2, very easily. The page 2 here, same thing, and student 2. I just need to add that bean up here. This is the student 2, and I don't need to set any properties because we set it in the first page. Okay, so pass it over. Refresh my page. So here's Aaron, and here's her information, and we lost somebody here. What happened? Oh, that was fine. Okay, so are we good with this part? How you pass set? No?
I'm having problems.
Is it yours not? I mean, like, do you understand how
I understand how it's working.
Okay.
However, it's not
Yeah.
Comments about Sabrina's name and trying to put Jason's name, it just didn't work.
You mean like up here?
Yeah,
You don't have any syntax error, or is it just doesn't working on your
it's not working on, no syntax error, just
the result
it's
is?
not showing up as Jason's here.
Okay, let's see. Do I have Jason here? Yeah, on this part. Okay. What do you see? What do you see for Jason?
I don't see, all I see, is, like, I commented out Sabrina's name, it's not,
Okay, you commented out, and then did you add it up here? This set property up here.
yeah. No. It's not
Why don't you close the browser in here and then just run it again? Sometimes it's in a cache, maybe. Yeah, so go just close that and then just recompile and then run it again. Usually you don't have to, but I mean, we've seen how that problems arise with Tomcat.
Nope.
I mean, your page does run. You just don't see the value.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's just it's syntax or a code somewhere it's not been set. Okay.
Trying to figure what did I do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Okay, so on the next part here, I want to show how you can pass parameters over to a different page. So let's just say that we're going to create a third page, okay, a third JSP file. This will be like page 3 .jsp. I'm just going to clean this up just a little bit here. Page 3 for the title. H1, again, just page 3. So what I'm going to do is when I click on the index page, okay, when I click on the link go to page 2, then it's going to load page 2. What I get here, instead of loading this page, I'm going to forward this to a different page, which is page 3. Okay, so let's just say that right here, I'm going to do like JSP forward, and I think page is page 3.jsp. And let's see if that would redirect to page 3. And if you want to see what other other elements are available, you can do like in the white space here. I think if you do like a control space bar, it will list you all the different elements here. Okay, so we'll use the well, the include. I haven't used that one yet. You can include other files using the JSP element, or you can use the include attribute. Directive. Either way. One of them is the forward. This is the one here. Forward is you're gonna forward to a different page, so it's kind of redirect to a different page. So I'm gonna move to page 3 instead of redisplaying or display this page here. Okay, so if I do that and then save the file, go back to the index page, run it. If I click on page 2, it should take me to page 3. Okay, so it just kind of skip page 2 and then goes to page 3. I mean, it did go through that page. So the page 3, if I want to again pass the same information over there, I would just have to basically copy those beans over, right? And it should still be the same. So here under the page 2, I'm going to copy the 2 JavaBeans up here, put to page 3. and then also down here, just we copy the same thing and put into page 3. So it also has a link go back to the home page. So it just shows student and student 2. Alright, so go back here, go back to the home page, refresh, just make sure. If I click on page 2, it loads to page 3. As you can see, if you look at the URL, it says page 2. Okay, but really the content is actually pushing that to page 3. So actually displaying the page 3 content instead of page 2.
Why would you want to do that?
This is kind of related to the MVC framework. We'll do that next week. With the MVC, you can have like on a home page or any landing page, you can load other pages into that same page without changing the URL. And so what I'm doing now is kind of like showing you like I'm showing the view of a different template. So you can have a lot of templates here and display on the same page, depending on where they come from, for example, right? If the user is this type, then load a different template, otherwise load a different one, but the URL is the same. Okay? So that's that there. Now I also want to do something here. When you go to this page 3 here, I can also pass some data along. Okay, instead of using the bean here, I could, like when I forward to page 3, instead of closing that there, I'm going to close it down here. Okay, and then if you encapsulate in here, if you add another JSP param right here, it's going to grab that already. And if you want to pass this information over, more data to this page, you could say something like the name of this parameter may be like school, for example, and the value is going to be GTC. Okay, you can have multiple parameter. Okay, you could do like city, and then we'll put Racine here. So passing parameters to page 3, and then in page 3, I can access this parameter. Okay, so page 3, so right down here, let me put on the bottom. So I could do something like, let me put the HR here. I just put like the school. Okay, you could use again this language expression language, and you could do something like param. Well, you know what? Let's just do the other one. We'll do like the other one, the get. So it's going to be a request. It's coming in the request, right? The response to request. If you remember in the servlet, it's request.getParameter. So this is how you get a parameter from either the URL or in the form of the body of the form, right? And the parameter is we call it school, and we can copy this and then just change us to a city. And the parameter we set was we passed to this page was a city. So it will show the school, the city here. So we go back to page 3, go to the home page again. I click page 2, and you see that here we have the beans object along with the parameters. Okay, we pass to that page. So any additional data you want to pass along to another page to be displayed inside this page, and you use the param element.
Can you go back to that or I missed it?
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. Yep. So you wrap it inside the forward tab, for example. Just remember that forward is different than include. Okay, forward means you're actually moving everything away. You replace everything with that page 3. Include is you're just including that page 3 in addition to what you have here. Okay, so we'll see that in a minute here. Okay, so you got it?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back to page 1. And let's say I want to include page 3 in here somewhere. Let's just on the bottom down here. Okay? I know because it's kind of bad because the way I have the HTML, everything here, you know, all the HTML stuff here. Usually you don't want to have all these stuff here, but just for this example, let's just say that, so usually this would be like a header file or a footer file and so on. But you could do a JSP include. Let's see, it will be page 3. Okay. And then in here you can still, same thing, pass the parameter. I might have something wrong here, but let's see. Include is a file or page. I wonder if I have the syntax wrong or not. I don't remember. Include page, we'll try the page. Let's just say the same thing, school. Value is, we'll put gateway this time. Oh, we're just gonna copy this again. City, Kenosha. See if I have it right. I don't remember the syntax. It's either file or page. So let's see. Go back here. Next page. And so you can see that it includes page 3 content along with the new data gateway in Kenosha, right? So here I'm including everything in page 1 plus whatever is in page 3. That's different from page 2. I'm redirecting, kind of like redirecting to page 3, but I'm sure actually loading page 3 data into the page 2 page. Okay? So you can see, you know, how you can use this to build your websites. Include can use that too. You can load other, you know, here I'm including JSP file. You can also include scripts, okay, HTML file, and you know, video files and so on. You put in here. Okay, any questions on this? So I hope you have some kind of idea how you can use this. You might use this for your final project, which means that we have about, what, 4 weeks to go? About 4 weeks or so. And I think you should kind of start thinking about how you can use this to redevelop that voting project. It's pretty easy, right? I mean, it should be. Either you can use JavaFX or JSP, or the next one, JSF, next week. But I will probably prefer either this or JavaFX. You can use Servlet too. Servlet is just a lot of typing, a lot of coding, right? You can write this in Servlet. Everything we output in the output method here. Okay, so again, we're just kind of scraping the surface here. We haven't even touched about Servlet yet. But we'll see if we have time, maybe before the end of the semester, I might revisit this and show you. If not, maybe you might do that on your own time. Okay? But the assignment, hopefully that this assignment will actually kind of give you a little idea about the survey, because this is an opinion poll, so kind of similar to your survey.
Is there a way to do it without connecting to the database, or do you have to? Because that's what it looks like we have to do. Connect to the database and then have it.
You know, you don't like database?
Huh?
You don't like database?
I don't.
You have to like it. Well, you can, okay, if you don't save to the database, yeah, you can store into like an array, it's fine.
An array?
Yeah.
Like count or something like that?
Yeah, you remember how you did in Java 1? How you store all those data inside an array?
Yeah.
You can do that. It will all be stored in RAM only. Okay, so if that's more comfortable for you, that's fine. But if you can do it in a database, actually that's easier if you
I understand it's easier,
Mhm.
but I had a lot of difficulties with that specific chapter. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's so yeah, that's fine either way. Okay, as long as it works, right? All right. I think we're done for today. So I will probably be recording a few more videos. If I have time on the servlet, so you can kind of see that. And again, we'll revisit a little bit again next week about MVC and how you can use JSP and MVC as well. It's a little bit different, but once you see how it works, you kind of have an idea of what's like. Okay, so